Round of applause, round of applause. Hit that like, share, subscribe button. I'm blessed, y'all. I'm blessed. Another rotation around the sun. I made it. I made it. I'm blessed. I'm highly favored. 51. You know, birthday passed a couple days ago. Took a little short trip. Had a little fun. You know, did some thinking and some contemplating. And I'm thankful. You know, I'm grateful. You know, years ago, I didn't think I would make it to C51. I was doing all the wrong things in the wrong place at the wrong times, or doing what I wasn't supposed to be doing, and you know, had some ups and some downs. But shit, I'm here. I'm here. I'm healthy. I'm doing good. I'm still growing and developing. I'm thriving. And when I was on my trip, I said, we're gonna do something different. We're gonna start dropping some videos, and me just dropping game, and you know, sharing some experiences, some knowledges in my life, and some wins and some losses, some things that I've learned, and kind of just start dropping some jewels. You know, maybe some things that I know of, some things that I've been through and have done can help somebody else. We got too big of a population of grown men on the internet talking about nothing. Talking about nothing, not dropping no game, not giving no insight, not sharing no wisdom and no knowledge. A lot of just nonsense on here. A lot of guys on here talking about nothing, basically. Trying to get into the algorithm, trying to get hits and clicks and likes and things like that, but they're not dropping nothing, no jewels and no knowledge. So I definitely want to make sure I stand apart from that. But I want to start just dropping some rules, or not even rules, just some things that I've learned. Not in any particular order or nothing like that. Some things that I've learned that kind of helped me with some of my successes and some of my wins. And I'm not doing it in any particular order. You know, this is the first one, but it's not number one. You know, it might be number 3 or number 4. But I do know one thing that helped me become the man that I am today, and accomplish some of the things that I've accomplished in my life, was not staying in the city and state where I was born and raised at. Yeah, not staying in that, you know, in that familiar surrounding, not staying in that familiar environment, not staying around those certain people and familiar people, you know, friends and family that kind of your security net, you know, or that comfort blanket, for lack of a better word. It did me a lot of good. It did me a lot of good. You know, I definitely, I knew when I wanted to leave. You know, I'm from Chicago, you know, born and raised in Chicago. I spent some years in Wisconsin and things like that, but I say my more developmental, you know, later years were in Chicago, and times when I was getting into things that I wasn't supposed to be getting into. I was around, you know, around a bigger family, and I knew when it was time to leave. I knew it was time to go. I knew I wasn't growing anymore. I knew I was staying stagnant. I was seeing a lot of the things going on around me, and I knew that if I didn't remove myself from some of these surroundings and situations, I would become a statistic. Point blank, simple. I would become a statistic. No other way around it. The cards were stacked against me. I was, you know, working with the hand I was dealt. So I knew I had to make some moves. I always knew when I was in Chicago, I had a big family. You know, I had, you know, great uncles. I just call them my uncles though, but they were my grandmother's brothers. My grandmother was the oldest, and you know, I had some older uncles, and in Chicago, they would, you know, they were doing their thing. You know, they were doing illegal, you know, illegal activity. They was in the drug game. I had one uncle in particular, my uncle Alameen. You know, he was, you know, he was in the dope games. You know, selling heroin and cocaine, and you know, he was moving and grooving in Chicago. He was also into real estate. He was also into politics. I think he ran for alderman at one point in time in Chicago. And we were on the west side of Chicago, so he had, you know, he had things kind of, you know, going and grooving and moving, you know, and he had my other uncles, which were his brothers, and they were also helping him too. You know, they had a spot where they were selling dope and they were selling, you know, cocaine and things like that. You know, definitely not the thing that was supposed to be done, or definitely not proud of it, but they were doing the best they could with the cars that they were gave, because they were coming from Mississippi when they were younger. They moved up to the city of Chicago. So, you know, coming from Mississippi, I don't really know the full story of it. I'm gonna have to put that full story on here, but maybe they didn't have the best education, best opportunities. The job market in Chicago, you know, probably wasn't the best. So they were making way with what they had. It's not an excuse for, you know, for any of that, but they were doing what they had to do. And long story short is, when my mom got divorced from my dad, we moved back to Chicago, and I was in that pivotal age where I think I was like 16, maybe 15, 16, maybe a little bit older. And my mom was working, taking care of me, my brother, my sister, and, you know, she couldn't do it all. I wanted things. I wanted clothes. I wanted, you know, a car eventually. Wanted to have money in my pocket and things like that. And, you know, this was in the early 90s. This is in the early 90s. And my mom didn't have much education, but, you know, she always had a good job in retail or in healthcare and things like that. But she couldn't provide a roof over our head and take care of me, my brother, and my sister. So I got with my uncle and was like, hey, I need to make some money. So I had other cousins too. You know, I had cousins that were around my age, a little bit older, a little bit younger. And, you know, they were kind of doing the same thing too. They were in the same position. Young black males, coming from a bad education system, coming from a bad economic system where, you know, not many jobs were available. So we were all in the kind of the same boat. You know, we were all in the same boat, and we all wanted the same thing. So we started working together, you know, selling drugs in the neighborhood in the area. And when you're doing things like that, there are other things that come with it too. You know, you got to be a part of a gang, or you got to be a part of this group in order to sell or make money in this area, because it's controlled by this certain group or these certain folks and things like that. So there's a bunch of other things that come in the mix of just a young man with no job opportunities trying to make money. So it's not as simple as I'm just gonna get out here and sell drugs and you know, do this and do that. It's a lot that come with it. You know, a lot of rules and regulations to the streets, and you gotta abide by the streets and the street code, or, you know, you can't find yourself hurt, you know, dead, or locked up. Those are basically the only three outcomes. Not a lot of people are retiring, being millionaires, or retiring from the drug game or the gang life or the street life. Not many do that. And the ones that, like, you know, that made it out of it without catching Fed cases or, you know, locked up or getting killed, we're blessed. And I'm one of them. I'm very, very blessed. For the most part, all my uncles that were selling the drugs and things, you know, were helping, you know, were teaching us how to sell the drugs and kind of putting us on and giving us the work to kind of go sell out here on their spots and they tip. All of them basically went to jail at one point in time in their life. And out of all the cousins, as far as me, my cousin Aunt, my cousin Twan, my cousin White Boy, my cousin Nino, rest in peace, my cousin Mike, all of us except for two have went to prison. One passed away, my cousin Nino. You know, he was heavy in the streets. You know, he got murdered. But they all did some time, went to jail. Got one cousin right now that's in prison, you know, for some years. And I made it out. Thankfully blessed. But I knew when I was in the mix of it, I knew this wasn't it. I knew I wasn't getting rich. That's one thing a lot of people would get on YouTube and say and talk about and try to paint that narrative they were out here getting rich. That's not the case. Most times, most of us couldn't even get past a phone and hit. And that's on the high side. That's if you were really doing good. That's a quarter key. That's 4.5 ounces. If you felt like you could get to a 4 and a hit, you felt like you were doing good. You know, that you had your little re-up money, you had a little extra money. You know, you can get your little cars and little jewelry and clothes and all that. But most people couldn't even get to that point. You know, most of them couldn't even get to 4 and a hit. They probably could get to 1 ounce or 2 ounces, and there was always something happening where they fall off, or, you know, getting robbed, or, you know, getting locked up, or, you know, something like that. So the dope game is not a game where you get in, where you're getting rich. A lot of these rich stories and things like that, those are 1 in a million stories. Everybody's not like a BMF. Everybody not, you know, like some of the other big drug crews, you know, like Paid in Full and all that. Nah, it wasn't a lot of millions going on and things like that. But it was enough to survive and sustain you, you know, for the most part, day to day. You were basically living hand to mouth, you know. You're making some money, you might be able to stack a little bit, get you a vehicle, or, you know, pay your rent or something like that, get some clothes, some eating money. But it definitely wasn't a situation where anybody was getting rich. And I was in the midst of that. And even though I was in the midst of that, my dad was in my life, you know, for a good part of my life, and he wasn't really a street dude. You know, he was a dude that was heavy into sports, athletics, education, and things like that. So he went to Wisconsin to go to school, and that showed me different things. You know, he got me into reading. I love to read. He got me into thinking a lot. You know, he showed me a different world besides just Chicago. So I wasn't stuck in this position where I'm thinking that Chicago is the end all be all. I saw other shit. I had a lot of cousins that they really weren't able to see other things and really kind of see that there's a life outside of Chicago at a young age. So it gives you a different perspective. It gives you a perspective of, you know, okay, it's something else out here. You know, this ain't all, you know, this ain't everything, this little 4-block radius where we living in and where we stuck at. So I think that definitely helped me out a lot in my journey, was because I had my dad in my life. He showed me some other things, some other shit. And it made me see that, okay, it's more to it than just this. But once him and my mom got divorced, you know, the things, you know, went crazy. I'm out there doing it, what my cousins doing, what my uncles is, you know, doing, and what they put me in the game and helped me and things like that. But all while in the mix of doing what I'm doing, I knew this wasn't it. Like, I wasn't really pressed on trying to be the biggest dope dealer or trying to be the biggest killer or the biggest gangster. Or I wasn't interested in none of that. I wanted to make some money so I could have the girls, you know, we can go out to eat, hang with the females, give me a bad chick. I wanted to have a car, and I wanted to have some fresh clothes. That's what I was wanting to do it for. I wanted to help my mom out a little bit too. And in the midst of me trying to do those things just to get that little money, you know, clothing money, get a car, a lot comes with that, because you got to be out here hustling to get the money. Now you got to interact, you got to deal with elements of the streets, with the stick-up kid, with the robbers, with the gangs that want to tax you because you're making money on the block, or with, you know, with the crackheads, or with the other crews that's trying to take over the block. So it's a lot of things that come in the mix of that can sidetrack you, or can get you caught up, or can potentially lead to you losing your life at any moment too. Very easy. And when I knew that I had other things that I wanted to do, I said, I definitely got to get away from this, because this ain't it. If I don't leave Chicago, if I don't stop, you know, trying to hustle and sell dope, I'm gonna end up a statistic and get caught up in the mix like damn near every other one of my buddies and my homeboys or my family members. Getting caught up. So I grew up on rap music. I loved rap music, you know. I'm a 70s baby. I'm born in 74, so I still remember having records. You know, I used to listen to Run DMC, LL Cool J, Houdini. Public Enemy was one of my favorite groups. Fat Boys. Man, I grew up on I even saw a lot of them in concert. Big Daddy Kane, Slick Rick. I saw a lot of them in concert. I would get the records and listen to the records and look at the album covers and things like that, and fantasize about being a rapper or doing things like that. You know, a lot of young black men want to be rappers, you know, at that time, you know. Nowadays it's a lot more. Everybody think that getting into the rap game is the easiest thing there is, but it's really not. You got a lot of street people coming into the music game because they think it's a quick and it's an easy way to wash and launder their money away from the streets and make a legit way. So a lot of them try to access the music way. And I wasn't any different. I tried to do the same thing. I was, doing some music. I was taking a little bit of the money that I was making from hustling and whatever, and going to the studio, doing some little, some records and this and that. And I believed in myself. That's another one of the rules to, that we're gonna drop, break down. Is just belief. You gotta have belief in yourself. Without belief in yourself, can't do shit. But I believe that I could do what them rappers were doing. And I was dope. I was making some records and, doing my little thing, and I'll, let the folks hear it and things like that. But what I knew is at that time, Chicago didn't really have a big music scene. So I wanted to get to LA because for one, I hate the wintertime. I hate the wintertime in Chicago. It's cold as fuck. I don't like it. So I wanted to go to LA. I wanted to go to LA where, I thought the music was at, where they had the nice weather and things like that. And I used to read a magazine called the Source magazine. And in that Source magazine, at that time, you could read about the artists. You can get in contact with people and things like that. So there was one article where it was Suge Knight in there. He was giving an interview or something like that. And at the time, he was locked up in prison. And when in that article, he gave out his information, so you could write him letters and things like that while he was in prison. So me, with my belief in myself and my big old ideas, and maybe it was naivete or whatever it was, but this is around like 98, 99. I wrote Suge Knight a letter, because I got his information out of that magazine. I wrote him a letter saying, "Hey man, I'm from Chicago. I'm in this street life. I'm trying to get away from this, get out of this. I want to do music. I could do music. I got some records. Could I send somebody some music in LA or something like that? Let y'all hear and check it out." I'm thinking, now I'm naive at the time. I'm thinking it just worked that easy. I'm thinking if you send them some music, they gonna like it, and they gonna pay for you to come out there and give you a record deal, and that's how easy it is. But it was me being stupid, but maybe it was God, making me stupidly blessed, because my naivete is what got me out of Chicago, out to LA, and it probably saved my life from being killed or getting locked up in the streets of Chicago, because I went out there to pursue my dream to do music in LA. So what I did was, I wrote that letter to Suge Knight. He wrote me a letter back, told me this, to get in contact with his right-hand man, his name was Reg. He in LA, and he gave me a number and this and that. And I called, I got in contact, and they tell me, whenever you out here in LA, come check us out, let us hear the music, and we'll see, what we can do. My dumb ass, I'm thinking that's just an invitation to say, oh man, you're gonna go out there, they gonna love you. They gonna sign you right away. You're gonna be the next Tupac and woo woo woo. So I jump on the fucking, I tell my mom them, look, I'm leaving, hey, ain't nothing happening. The drug game is slowing up, everybody getting locked up. Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of guys getting killed, and it's just getting treacherous. No job prospects or whatever. And then it's a catch-22 situation. I had a couple cars, I always had some nice little cars, but none of them last long enough for me to use the cars to go get a job, because there are no jobs really in the city like that. So you need a car to get to the job. If you don't got a car to get to the job, now you're in a position now where you got to sell dope to get the money to get the car to get to the job. It's a big old cycle, a perpetual cycle. And I'm telling my mom and telling my cousins, like, look, man, I ain't making no money, selling this dope, selling this, selling rocks and things like that. It's a never end cycle. Ain't no job prospects, around it like that. So I said, man, I'm finna go to LA and make music. So No, I get rid of every little thing that I had as far as last little drugs and this and that and all that. To my mom, man, I'm finna go to I'm finna go to LA and do music, and I'm lying to myself. I'm telling everybody I'm finna get signed. I'm finna go out there. They gonna take care of me and this and that. I jump on a Greyhound bus with like $100 in my pocket, an address and a phone number to the death row offices, and I'm out. That bus ride, that bus ride was like maybe, I don't know, from Chicago to LA. I think it was like a 3, maybe 4-day bus ride. I get there and the bus stop in LA, the Greyhound, is in downtown LA. For anybody that's been to LA, downtown is not the spot. Downtown is Skid Row. It's drug central. It's mental health central. Lot and lots of people living on the streets out downtown LA. Lots of drug selling going on, drug addicts, just a lot of craziness, and that's where the bus stop was at. So I get, I arrive at the bus station. I'm thinking I'm gonna go down to go to death row offices and meet them. I go down to the office and meet them. They like, well, we ain't tell you to just come here like that. Like, nah, that ain't how it work, homeboy. We got a process. There's a process to this. So I left from my music. I gave them music when I went down there. Nothing came with a little meeting or whatever. And they said they'd get in contact. And I'm like, cool, okay. Now what? I don't want to go back to Chicago. Nothing happened in Chicago. I don't want to go back and look like a failure, like, oh, you left and you came right back. I definitely, no, that was my ego and my pride. So I said I wasn't going to do that. And I was walking downtown and I happened to walk past a men's shelter. It was a Christian men's shelter. And they had the door open and there was a man in there, preaching, talking. And I kind of walked past the door and I kind of just stopped and listened to it a little bit. And he was in there preaching the word, from the Bible. And he was saying how he used to be in the music business and he was with this band and things like that. And now, he doing it for the Lord. And he started talking about how you can come into this shelter if you ain't got nowhere to go and you can live here. You can get yourself clean or get your GED and you can have a place to stay. You ain't got to leave and things like that. You can get your life together and that can be your foundation so you can get back on your feet. So I'm thinking, oh, damn, okay. Let me go talk to him. He used to be in the music business. Let me let him know, hey, I'm from Chicago, man. I do music. I'm out there. I don't know nobody. I ain't got nobody, whatever, woo. Started talking to him. I didn't have no drug problem. I smoked weed or whatever, but I didn't have no drug problem like that. And he told me to tell him that I did. Those were the prerequisites. You had to be in like dire straits. You had to have nowhere else to go. You had to be down on your luck, and you had to, have no other options for you to be able to sign in there and them to send you upstairs and give you a room. So I told them, hey, yeah, I'm out from Chicago. I ain't got nowhere to go. I'm a drug addict, whatever. I'm trying to stay in LA, and they accepted me. They let me come stay in the shelter. They sent me upstairs, and you have to stay in a room. I think it's like a 2, 4, 6. It's like a 6-man room where you got like these bunk beds, and you got and you have like lockers, to keep your little stuff, to keep your books, to keep your clothes and things like that. It was called a Union Rescue Mission. It was a Christian shelter, a men's shelter, and it was cool. I said, okay, this is what I need. This will help me be able to stay out here. I can stay here for free. Maybe I could get my GED. I could start working, and I'd still be in LA and out. The big thing was I didn't have to go back to Chicago. I didn't have to go back into that environment. I didn't have to go back to that to nothing, basically, going to the same trap and end up locked up or worse, dead somewhere. So I stayed at that shelter. They would let you go out and try to find jobs after like being in there for 90 days. You can't leave out, but you got to go to church. They got a church in that homeless shelter. They feed you 3 meals a day. They make you do like a little job or something like that. They had a weight room in there. They had a library. They had a little, they had a church in there. They had a men's mental health counseling thing in there. They had dental. They had a lot of things. I was really surprised at all the services this place offered for men. You don't see a lot of places like that for men that offer, dental, mental health care, offer you job and resume preparedness. And this place did all of that free of charge. Free of charge. So definitely that's a dope spot. But I wound up staying there, for a year. I was able to go out and work and, save my money. And then if you save your money, then you save. If they know you have a job and they make you save your money, now you save enough money to where you can go out and get your own place. So that was a big catalyst for me. That was big. But the biggest thing about it, what really helped me out a lot, I'm gonna try to make the story short, was by me not being in Chicago. I'm in LA, so I'm out here and I'm free. Don't nobody know me. I ain't got no beef with nobody. I ain't got to watch over my back. And I can be whatever I want to be here in LA. I'm not Sean that's a gang banger, that's a GD, or that's sold dope, selling dope or nothing like that. I'm Sean from Chicago and I'm a rapper. I do music. So me thinking with my belief system of, man, the earth is my turf. I can go anywhere I want to go as long as I'm moving with respect and I ain't coming on no nonsense or bullshit. So, excuse me, at every chance I got, when I was able to leave out that shelter, I would go around LA. Sometimes I would just walking around in LA, nowhere to go, going to the library downtown, just sitting in the library sometimes just to get away from the shelter, reading books, occupying my mind, or I would go down there and write rhymes and stuff like that. Or I would go ride the bus, go ride the train all day just to get out. But anybody that I ran into when I was in LA, I would let them know, hey, I'm from Chicago, I do music. Hey, I'm from Chicago, I do music. Hey, whoever I ran into, I always try to put myself in places where I knew I would probably run into somebody. I was going to LA and Santa Monica and Venice, and I would, look up and see where the studios are at. And I would, try to be around the studios and the place where the artists and shit like that would be. And I would always try to make myself presentable and be in those areas. So you never know who you run into. And by me doing that, just letting anybody I know that I did music, I ran into Layla Steinberg. Layla Steinberg, if you Google her, she was the lady that discovered Tupac. Back when he, before he got on with Death Row, when he was with Digital Underground, she discovered Tupac and she kind of managed him and helped put him on. And I ran into her. Now I already got one thing going for me. Back then, before I had the gray hairs and and shit like that, and I didn't have a beard, people used to say I looked like Tupac a little bit. So I kind of used that to my advantage. Well, I look like him a little bit, but I got music too, and my music is kind of political. It's like motivational music. It's let me use this to kind of get me where I can get in position. So Layla took a liking to me as far as my music, and maybe she thought she could do something with my look or whatever, and she took me under her wing. She started introducing me to people, helping me record music. I lived with her for about maybe 4-5 months in Venice, Santa Monica. And she was kind of moving me around and I was kind of meeting people like that, doing music. Eventually, things didn't work out with her or whatever, but I was still in LA doing music. But I say all that to say, me getting out of my environment in Chicago, believing in myself and taking a risk and going to LA and putting myself in a different environment where I can create myself anew, helped me get to where I'm at today. Because I was able to run into different people, make different connections, make different friends, see different environments, and I was able to get out of my environment in Chicago where I could free my mind. could free my mind and free my spirit and just be free for the most part and just work. I could walk and catch the buses. I ain't got to worry about no gangs or none of that. More space. I was able to move around. I was just able to dig deep into myself and dig deep into what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. It definitely wasn't easy. I'm living in a homeless men's shelter. Ain't got no money like that. I was able to get, little jobs doing telemarketing and things like that. But being in another environment and leaving where I was born and raised at and getting away from that safety blanket and that security of my friends and family and that familiarity of my neighborhood, it helped me grow. It helped me grow tenfold, hundredfold. Hold on, y'all. It helped me grow 100-fold, and it helped me put my mindset and my thought process in a whole different world, a whole different plane, a whole different matrix. Man, you could do music. If you think about it and you speak it and you put the work in and you come with feasible product, you could put this somewhere, you could do something with this. Being in Chicago and being around people that didn't have my vision or didn't have my ideas or my thought process, it would have kept me stagnant. It would have kept me thinking that, nah, I can't go out here and do this. Nah, I can't go do this, because they might didn't have that vision and that would rub off on me. So me getting away from my environment, me shedding my old skin and getting away from the dead things that I know that no longer serve me, which are selling drugs and being around certain friends and family, because some family will hold you the fuck back too. It helped me elevate myself. It helped me get to a whole nother level where now I could see clearly. I could think clearly. I wasn't smoking all day, every day. I wasn't drinking all day, every day. I wasn't worried about somebody riding down the block, shooting the block up. I wasn't worried about going to jail, getting locked up because I got a pack on me. I'm trying to sell this pack so I can get some money. So me getting out of my environment of Chicago, it put me on a whole nother path to greatness that I never would have knew I had if I didn't take that chance and believe in myself and leave my familiar environment, which was Chicago. We're going to get deeper into it in a lot of other, videos I'm going to start dropping. Hit that like, subscribe button, man. I'm dropping game. I'm putting my life on here so somebody can learn from it. Yeah, like, share, subscribe. But to circle back around to what I was saying is one of the points that I wanted to drop to the youngsters or just to anybody is to get out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you got to leave that familiarity and ain't nothing happening. You got to put yourself in another situation where some things are happening, or you can make some things happen and you can reinvent yourself away from what you used to be. You got to leave sometimes. You got to leave in order to grow. Or sometimes you got to isolate yourself in order for you to develop. When I was in LA, sometimes those were the loneliest times in my life. Didn't have no money to call home. Sometimes eating a bag of Doritos for food all day or whatever. Staying in the men's shelter. But that isolation helped me focus on what I wanted to do, and it helped me focus on who I am as a man and as a person, who I want to be, who I'm trying to be, and where I'm going. So that helped me out tremendously, leaving Chicago, going to LA under the crazy thought of I'm finna be this big famous rapper, and me going to pursue it. Now, I'm not gonna lie though, I met a lot of cats in the music game. I definitely had opportunities. I definitely was in position to do some things. Because I got music online, and I've done a lot of things and met a lot of people. But I will admit this though, me getting into the music game, I realized that I'm built a little different. I'm built a little different than some of these rappers and some of these artists. I'm not just finna do anything just to get on and say anything and rap about anything. I couldn't do some of that things. I'm thinking, I left this in Chicago. I don't want to get on the mic talking about this and trying to portray this image. I'm doing music. I don't want to be the biggest gangster or the biggest killer or walk around lying about I sold the most dope knowing I couldn't get past 2 ounces. Shit, if that. So I just said, man, I can't get up here on no fake non-genuine shit. So I think I talked myself or walked myself out of a lot of opportunities where I could have did some big shit in music. If I would have just kind of, for lack of a better word, sold my soul and just did everything that they were doing, or making the kind of records they wanted me to make. You know what I'm saying? So, I said that little bit, that little story, that little bit of background about my background and how I got to this point where I've did records, I did albums, I've done shows, I've written books. I'm writing my third book now. I've had a company. I've employed people. I'm in school now. I've been married. So I've done a lot of shit because I realized I needed to take myself out of my familiar environment that wasn't serving me anymore, no longer serving me, and put myself in a different position or place. No matter how tough it is or how uncomfortable it is, I knew it was gonna make me better. You was either gonna focus or fold. You was gonna either grow or you was gonna die. And I definitely wasn't coming there to die. So me leaving my familiar environment, going into an unfamiliar environment, believing in myself, isolating myself from a lot of the negativity that I was, doing in Chicago, helped me to elevate. It helped me to get into a lot of positions where I'm in, today, on the path I'm on today. And it definitely did me a world of good. So to the brothers, to the young guys out there, whatever, I'm 51 now, nigga still looking good, making it happen. But if the one thing I want you to take from this story is sometimes you got to get out of your familiar surroundings. You got to put yourself in uncomfortable situations to make yourself grow, to make yourself build, and develop. So hit that like, share, subscribe button, man. Drop a comment in the comment section. We're going to start dropping more videos like this where I'm speaking on my experiences, my knowledge, a lot of things I know about. I know about business. I know about credit. I know about marriage, shit. I know about music. I know about investing. So we're going to start talking about a lot of things like that, dropping some game, dropping some knowledge. But get yourself out of your familiar surroundings. Believe in yourself, and make that move. And sometimes you got to isolate yourself from everything that you know so you can see who you are. You did, and I guarantee you'll thank yourself for it later. Hit that like, that subscribe button, drop a comment in the comment section. God Body Sean, Elevation Nation Conversations. I appreciate y'all, and I'm gonna talk to y'all on next night. Peace.
I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm winning.
Elevation Nation Conversations. God Body Sean.